Hello, and thanks for joining us for another episode of Mid-American Gardener. I'm your host, Tanisha Spain, and joining me in the studio today are three of our panelists here to answer all of your questions about gardening. We've got a lot to cover, so let's jump in and have them introduce themselves, and then we're going to get going. So, John, we'll start with you.
I am John Bodensteiner. I'm a Vermilion County Master Gardener. I like to grow just about anything, and I like to experiment with different things. And
Just a generalist, if you will. All right. Okay.
Hi, I'm Kay Carnes. I'm a Champaign County Master Gardener, and I like herbs and vegetables and all kinds of plants.
All right. Wonderful, Chuck.
I am Chuck Voigt. I'm retired from the University of Illinois, where I used to teach master gardeners.
yes, you were one of my teachers.
Yes, I remember that over in Vermilion County. And so I've been retired for a while now, and vegetables and herbs were my specialty. But like John, I'm kind of
You're into everything.
anything that piques my interest. I'm good to go and try it.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, we have a lot to cover. So, John, we'll go back down to you. Which would you like to start with? Let's jump in. Dealer's choice.
Okay, let's go with the. This is. A lot of people consider this a weed. This is Solomon seal. This is the one that isn't supposedly a weed. It does spread. This is the variegated variety, but I just find it interesting. I like the little flowers hanging off of it, and it's blooming right now. The other thing I brought was my hellebores, and I wanted to talk about that because right now you're going to find things like this. This is the flower with the seed buds that are starting to show. And you can see right here, they once they ripen, they just pop open and they'll not go far. And so what I have done, I have taken a breathable bag, and what I'll do is I'll put it around the flower so that once they do pop, I can just gather the bag and I tighten this up against so that they can't fall out, and then I'll plant them that way. You can't wait too long. You don't want to let the seeds dry or get too old, but they just bloom, 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 and there's all different kinds. There's a new doubles. There's different colors. There's a wedding series. There's the honeymoon series, and then of course I had to throw in a hosta leaf just to show. People always say, "Oh, hostas are just plain." Well, this is the Liberty variety. This is probably one of my favorite. And I mean, you have this color throughout the whole year. And have different flowers like the hellebores around it because they both are shade lovers. And so
Ella brings in hellebores a lot. What is it about them that you like the most? Is it that you get that long?
the long blossoms. I mean, they started blooming in February. I had honeybees and orchard bees on these. I went out to look at them, and I heard this buzzing, and there was actually bees. I had both the orchard bees and the honeybees. I'm not sure where the honeybees. Somebody must have a hive near me.
Maybe.
But the orchard bees I have houses put up for the honeybees. But they last. They're still beautiful, and they're evergreen throughout the year.
Do they require a lot of maintenance? Do you have to cut them back?
I cut them back as soon as the snow melts, just so that I can see the flowers.
Gotcha.
You don't have to. They'll just go to the ground and deteriorate. But I do clean them up just to make them look a little bit more attractive.
Okay. All right. We'll come back to you and learn a little bit more. All right, Kay.
Okay.
You have a story to tell.
I have a pathetic dahlia. I love dahlias. They're gorgeous flowers. They get very large and they have beautiful colors. And and I've grown them for years and years and years, and I had a bunch of tubers in a bag that were all dried up and I had given up on, and I looked in there and I saw this one had green coming out of it. Now how it didn't have water, it didn't have sunlight, but
And you think this was in that bag for over a year, you would guess?
At least.
At least
more.
a year. Wow.
So I'm kind of babying it. I'm going to get a stick and so that I can tie it up and straighten it out a little bit. But dahlias are really beautiful plants, and
Come in
Now,
all
do you-
sizes.
Do you
All
think that one will
sizes.
bloom this year?
Probably not.
Well,
I don't know. It
should.
might. It might.
You think so? You know what? Now we're all invested.
Check in later.
Yeah, to be continued on this guy. But you know, we've all done that. We've all, tossed something to the side and found it later. And so when you see that green, though,
I
a lot
know.
of us, we
I
just
was
can't pitch it.
I was shocked, and I thought, well, a poor thing.
Well, let's see if she can save it.
So I'm working on it. But
Okay.
It's doing pretty good. It's
You'll
a
have to
little bit
bring it back
droopy.
for some updates
Yeah, I will.
throughout the season.
Send you pictures.
Please do. All right, Chuck, we're going to go to you.
Okay.
You sent in some buttes. So,
Right. You did a remote once from the farm
yes.
in daffodil season, and this is like an establishing shot. Originally there were 4 rows there. The second one from the left is kind of not what it once was, but where you see it's filled in between the rows, those are all seedlings. Because as I got busy here at the U of I no longer had time to deadhead 3,000 or 4,000 daffodils. And so they were just on their own to go ahead and cross-pollinate and make all sorts of little babies. And I probably 5 or 6 times now I've marked about a dozen of them that I thought might have some merit. But then it gets to be June and it's hot and I'm busy and they never seem to get dug. But that's an establishing shot, and also to show that I really don't need more daffodils. But there we go. This is one that was in my house in Urbana. I dug those up and planted a row of them up at the farm.
Very pretty.
It's more or less of the trumpet sort, but with hybridizing and breeding, you get frilling, and some of the trumpets start to open up, and so they're sort of half cup, half trumpet. The pink trumpet is a little more like a standard trumpet, and you can see there in the background they come out sort of a yellow. And then as they age, it goes more toward that sort of a shell pink.
Gotcha, gotcha.
And then you get the cups. This is a yellow on yellow. That one is a little past its prime, but you can see all that frilling. That's one called Curly. Just really, really stunning, I think, with that dark orange against the pretty white. There's a pink cup. And they're just okay. Now, I've been on this show and I've publicly kicked myself for going to the big box store late in the fall and buying daffodils when I didn't need daffodils. And John talked about something that interests you. Well,
That's the one, huh?
A, they were really cheap, and B, they were very interesting. So, but officially this year I've stopped kicking myself because especially these double pinks were just magnificent and have multiplied to the point where even the show in the row was pretty good. There you can see that.
Wow.
It's like, where 2 years ago, there's probably only 1 per spot. Now there's 3 or 4 or more, and and then the other one, the double yellow, that looks like one of your dahlias to me.
Yes, it does.
It's just amazing. The one drawback that I found is that in the wind and the rain, that gets incredibly heavy. So in the future, I'm going to have to do some sort of support to keep them upright. But it's probably going to be worth it because that's amazing to me.
Yes, it is. That is very pretty. Let me get to the next set here.
Okay.
There we go.
And then this past November, my friend gifted me with these 50 little daffodil bulbs that I didn't need. And so 50 turned into 97.
Well, as it does.
And pretty much all of them came up in their new little row. There's only 6 of them that were flowering. And since this picture was taken, they have opened. It's got a white perianth and a kind of a butter yellow cup on it. So
Very pretty.
and I don't know. they didn't come with, I don't know if they're all the same or if they're going to turn into multiple different things, but next spring maybe we'll know that. And then the Crown Imperial is just always so majestic and beautiful, and you can't smell it in a picture, so it's really impressive. I also have yellow ones, and I think there are redder ones as well, but I don't have those. So
Very nice.
What is that again?
Crown Imperial, Fritillaria imperialis.
A fussy name for a very pretty flower.
Yes,
That's gorgeous.
gorgeous.
So there we are, and
Love that.
We'll check in next year and tell you how Keith's row has turned out. I also promised to credit cousin Jill, my designated photographer, who on cue came over on a Monday and shot all these.
We need to give her producer credits on the show because I feel like she's the Bondville arm of this organization. So, well, thank you, cousin Jill, and thank you for sharing those pics with us. All right, John, we are back to you.
Well, I brought a couple other things here. This is my tree peony, and it's blooming right now. It's the first to bloom compared to the herbaceous, and so it's blooming at there's about a dozen blossoms on the bush right now. It's a tree peony, and the reason it's called a tree peony, it doesn't die all the way back to the ground, and it will come back and get a little bit bigger each year. I do have another one that's called Itoh, or Itoh, I-T-O-H.
Okay.
It's a cross between the tree peony and the herbaceous. It'll die all the way to the back, but it's just beautiful. Got lots of different colors that are available. Not blooming yet, but it's in the next 2 or 3 days, those buds are going to break. And the one I have a yellow one and a white one, and just gorgeous. The other thing I have here is the yellow rose of Texas, and it's not really a yellow. I mean, it's yellow, but it's not a rose, and it is a Caria japonicus but it's a bush that gets to be about 5-6 feet tall, just covered with these little yellow flowers, and they're very full. And
Didn't you say they come in other colors?
yes, they do come in, and they're starting to come in pink and a reddish and a yellow now. So.
I like that yellow though. That yellow is
Yeah,
striking.
it really stands out.
Contrasts nicely with the kind of
Yeah.
purplishness of the
does.
tree peony.
It does.
But-
Very nice. And so I posted a picture on our Facebook of 3 things that we are all most likely seeing in our yard right now: henbit, creeping Charlie, and purple dead nettle. So let's talk about that for a few minutes. And also, there was a question in this while we're discussing. Someone said, is there anything endearing about any of these? So, John, I know you wrote some things down, but feel free, Kay and Chuck, to chime in. But let's talk about these 3.
Well, the henbit is the one that I've had a couple of people ask me, why is the fields all purple? Beautiful. I mean, it's a wonderful color, and that is the henbit. It's in the mint family. If you look at it, it's got a square stem. It is, a lot of people get it mixed up with creeping Charlie. Creeping Charlie is going to grow along the ground. This has an ascending growth habit. It's got opposite leaves. Another thing that people get it mixed up with is the dead nettle. Dead nettle has got kind of this type of leaf, this shaped leaf. And the henbit has got a completely different type of leaf. So that's how you can tell the difference between that. They're what they call winter annuals, and the henbit, somebody asked, is there any use? They are and you have to be very careful on using any plant if you don't know what it is. Anti-rheumatic, anti-inflammatory, diaphoretic, which means it'll, if you make a tea out of it, make you sweat. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but they are edible. You can add the flowers to a salad or the greens, or make a tea out of it.
Okay.
So.
All right, Chuck, anything to add there on the
Well,
big 3 here?
Since they use my name in it, Creeping Charlie was originally used to make beer last longer.
Oh,
Before they used hops to
So
do
very
that.
useful.
Before they used hops to help it keep. So it has an herbal history. It's just kind of a pernicious yardweed, but if you don't have to try to control it or worry about it from a distance, about now, it's spectacular in flower.
Yeah.
And
It smells good when you mow it.
Sure, you get some herbal relief. And as far as the henbit, because it is a winter annual, as soon as you get hot weather, it's going to disappear on its own, and then in a cultivated field, it goes away pretty easily. But it does kind of, as we talked about earlier, act like a cover crop in some of those fields, and maybe not. We don't need every field in the world to be magenta, but it is nice to look off across a magenta field once in a while and just enjoy the color.
And it's too bad they don't have the butter weed and the henbit at the same time. That would be that would
nice
really
show,
be spectacular.
Yeah,
So
kind
they're
of like your contrast there.
not necessarily a bad thing, just a nuisance for people who are wanting to plant in that area. Is that a fair,
Those that want
fair
a
assessment?
perfect looking lawn, it's going to cause just a little bit of anxiety, maybe.
All right. Well, sometimes we have
It's
to.
good for the bees. The bees will like it. And
Early
the,
food.
The dandelion, they like that.
Okay. Well, leave them if you can. If you can. Let's see. Debbie Cakeney Page wants to know what your thoughts are on potentilla. Did I get it? Potentilla bushes. So I've got a picture up here. I don't think I've seen these before.
No.
Do you find these in the nurseries?
Yeah,
or
you
do?
can.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on them? Do you grow these, either of you? Any of you?
I have one. Another name for it is chinkophyll.
Okay.
It's a native throughout the world in the northern hemisphere. Doesn't do good down south in the heat. Look for it now. Plant it in the spring. It gets to 3 to 4 feet wide and high. It's got yellow flowers, and now they've come out with another one that's pink. It's Diaphora fruticosia floribunda. If you
that's a
need
mouthful.
to
Now,
know.
the one that you have, does it stay pretty compact? Does it get wide? Does it get
I
tall?
do trim it back
Okay.
in the fall. Right after it blooms, I trim it back. So it usually blooms late midsummer, and so as soon as it's done blooming, I'll trim it back because I don't want to. If I wait too long, then I'm trimming off next year's flowers. But
Gotcha. Okay. But that is, would you recommend it as a good
it's
bed
easy to
flower?
take care of. It's easy. There's no disease. I haven't had any disease on it. No insects. So
It's a nice filler in the landscape when it's not in bloom.
yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Let's see. Marlene Francis would like to know where to get some fruit trees, but her specific request is so she says the big box stores will sell anything, including things that don't grow well here. How do you know, or which ones to pick for our area? And is there a nursery or a place that you guys go to where everything is sort of tailored to our zone? But do you just have to kind of be a savvy shopper when you're out and about? What?
You have to do your research.
Yeah.
Do your research and find out, because if she's talking apples, if she just buys one apple tree and it needs a cross, there's certain ones that will work better. I mean, she still may get 1 or 2 apples, but if she wants a big crop, she's going to have a cross. And they usually, most good ones will put the 2 types of apples that you need for them to cross properly.
Gotcha.
So if you can, you don't have to, but you're going to get a lot better crop and happier. And do your research. Find out is it zone 5? Is it
Okay.
I think generally if you start looking at a Midwestern mail order nursery, you'll probably do all right, because they're where we are here in mid-America. Also, if you're in a suburban situation, pollination may become less of a problem because there may be enough diversity in the other houses not too far away from you, so that the bees can do their thing and
be familiar with, you may see standard size, depending on what the root, it depends on what kind of rootstock they put it on. If the standard size is going to be up to 30 feet tall, possibly. They've got some others that only get to 6. They're not as hardy because the roots don't grow as big, so they don't get as, they're nice for a small yard. But again, do your research and depends on what you want.
I hear a lot of people talking about their peach trees don't fare well here. Is that because this is kind of out of bounds?
We've got a couple of peach trees, and they do really well. Now last year,
except when they don't.
No, it was so cold.
Exactly.
That they didn't. None of the fruit trees. We got several.
I
fruit
had still apples, but that's the only thing I got.
None of them bloomed. This year they were, and this is what I was hoping. It actually turned out good because they rusted a year. And so this year we've got tons of blossoms on all our fruit trees, and I can see little, tiny fruit starting to form. Yeah. So I'm
fingers crossed.
But there are 2 ways you can lose peaches here.
Yeah.
Okay.
One is winter cold, especially as you get later in the winter when the hardiness is starting to back off. Then the flower buds are not nearly as hardy as the vegetative buds. So it can kill off all the flower buds, and then the vegetative buds are still okay. And then the other thing is, if they come out too soon, they can get frosted, and you lose them that way. So peaches can be heartbreakers in the upper Midwest, particularly. When they do well, that's great. Or if you're in the lake shadow in southwest Michigan, that's why there's a nice peach growing area there, which normally would be pretty far north for them, but because of Lake Michigan's influence, they do pretty well there most years because they don't get as cold in the winter, and the lake keeps it cooler in the spring, so they don't come out and bloom too early. But
another thing is, I planted my peach trees on a hillside because they do not like wet feet. So if I've had some of my peach trees up to 20 years now. Okay. And if I did have some were in an area that does not drain well, they lasted 2 or 3 years. And
so there could be other things going on, not just weather.
We've had ours for several years, and they're in the yard, so it's flat.
They tend to attract borers too.
Gotcha. Okay. Before we go, we've got about 3 minutes left. Let's talk about your unusual snack.
People always talk about the little.
We call them helicopters.
The little helicopters.
Really fun.
And if you don't want them to grow in your yard, and they will as soon as they drop. They tend to. This little part here will go down. It'll helicopter down, and this will get embedded into the ground. And sure enough, you'll have a little maple tree growing. Well, have the kids go out. This is pretty labor intensive. I find them good, but if you take this little seed out of it, and this is what it looks like. And got the dropsies today. But saute those in butter, and they taste like roasted pumpkin seeds, and they're actually very nutritious. They got lots of carbs and proteins in them.
I could see those on a salad.
Yeah.
A nice, pretty spring salad.
But
you got to really want it.
Yeah.
You'll be all day.
It's a lot of work. But again, everyone that you eat isn't going to be coming up in your yard.
That's true. Just like with the carp, if you can't beat them, eat them.
It would be hard to make much of a dent in the hundreds of thousands of them that come twirling down.
Better get started on those. Did we get through all of your show and tells? I don't think
so.
We got to the succulent. Isn't that one there a succulent?
Oh, yes. This is.
Uh-oh.
It is.
Welcome to my world.
It's a variegated one.
Yes. It is wonderful. It holds up in the hot summer. Gets a beautiful pink flower, and why am I not thinking of
You know
this?
what? It's a good thing for technology because we'll just edit the name of it right over top
Yes.
of it, like it never happened.
Dorianthus.
There you go.
Dorianthus. And it's you can start them. You know, I could break this off and stick this into the or stick it in water, and it'll root within 3-4 days, and then you've got a whole new plant. But they grow over the edge. You know, like some pots, you want the flow.
Yes.
This is one, and it'll get. Deer don't seem to like them a lot. I've had some that have been trimmed, but not very often. So
Okay.
Be a good spiller for your containers.
a spiller, yeah.
I just learned that term a couple weeks ago from Ella. The
A
stiller, the
thriller.
thriller.
The filler
And
and
the-
the spiller.
Anywho, thank you guys for coming. I always learn a lot when you're here. And thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. If you've got questions, you can send them in to us at yourgarden@gmail.com or just look us up on socials, search for Mid-American Gardener, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us. Good night.